All right, good afternoon and welcome. This session is Editor Experience in GovCMS8. Now, there are three pillars to any successful Drupal project. Of course, the back-end development, where arguably the most effort and budget is expended. There's, of course, the front end, which is exposed to the public. But the third one is editor experience in the author environment. So before I introduce myself, I just want to say a quick word on editor experience. So what is it? So I've got a definition here. It's the practical content, practical contact with and observation of the author environment. And of course, this can be good or bad. So what are the benefits in getting this right? Well, for development shops, repeat business. If you get this layer of your Drupal project right, you'll get the clients coming back for more work. And of course, they will talk to their associates and other companies, and potentially you get a flow-on effect. For site owners and products owners, the benefit of you getting this right is satisfying your stakeholders. So it's good for you as a site owner to understand what is actually possible, particularly when it comes to customization. Because then you have a chance when you're dealing with your Drupal vendor to make those changes during the course of the project. And that will be a big benefit from you. So here's the obligatory quick poll of the room. So who in here thinks out-of-the-box editor experience in Drupal rocks? Show of hands. That was expected. Who thinks it sucks? That's actually more hands than I expected. All right. I think it's generally accepted that the author and editor experience with Drupal, particularly in the beginning years, was kind of lacking and not particularly good. I think in recent years, there's been more of an effort to make that better. And there are some initiatives, the Admin UI initiative and the Material Admin theme. So there are a couple of groups that are working on that to make that experience better. Well, I've got some good news. The out-of-the-box experience with GovCMS, I think, is better than the default experience. And I'm going to take you through some of those improvements that we've been able to put in with the help of the GovCMS team. All right, quick introduction. My name is Ian Humble. I'm the Account and Business Manager at Morphed, and we're based in Sydney. I started out my career in graphic design in the 90s, and then I moved to web development in 2000s because I had a passion for technology. And in mid-2000, I then moved into management and leading digital teams. And I would say I'd have an equal passion for both design and technology. I love them both. I think you need to get both of these arms of website development right. More recently in my role as an account manager, where I'm going out and doing training with clients and gathering scope, I've had a recent focus on author experience. Because quite often at those training sessions, you will get feedback and going, well, why is it this way? We've come from a particular CMS and we don't understand this paradigm of how we're editing here. And so I become the conduit between the client and the development teams. And quite often we're able to address most of the issues the client has during that build. Of course, I've had a laser-sharp focus on author experience coming up to giving a presentation on this site. Quick agenda. We're going to have a look at some modules and configuration, some out of the box, some custom. Then we're going to have a quick look at admin themes and customization and finish off with some custom admin views. So, of course, it is a talk on editor experience in GovCMS, so I'm going to say a few words on GovCMS. So the GovCMS is basically a framework that allows government departments and organisations to easily procure, build and or migrate websites. The team, Nathan down the back here and Sharon and Toby have done an amazing job over the last 12 months with a brand new build into Drupal 8. So it's a brand new build. It is an iteration from, obviously, from GovCMS 7. Sometimes it's called GovCMS 2.0. The There's an advantage, obviously, with the new system. It is fully open source from end to end. So this is an iteration over the previous system. So technically, if you have a pass instance of this, you could actually lift and shift that to another hosting environment. The other thing is that all the editor experience concepts discussed here today are possible in GovCMS. And they're also possible in your own custom Drupal projects. So the Jumpstart, the graphic over the side there, is Morph's take on the GovCMS starter kit. So this is an extension of the tools you get out of the box, and I'll be using this to be doing demos during the course of this talk. All right, so I'm going to talk about some of the things that you get out of the box. The first thing is that you'll get Add Minimal. Who's familiar with Add Minimal theme? Cool. Who's familiar with 7 or 8? Yeah, cool. Lots of hands going up. So this is a standard out of the box. If you install the foundations and the GovCMS8 UI kit starter, then you will get this particular theme. There's nothing stopping you changing that admin theme for one of your own or a custom one. So we'll come back to some of the customizations you can do with a theme to improve your editor experience. But we're going to start off with a couple of cool modules that come with the starter kit. So the first one is Entity Reference Display. And this essentially is a display switching for node lists. So what you see in front of you is just part of the home page that we have on the Jumpstarter kit. It is your standard teaser view or stack coming from 5 different nodes. And so this is the teaser view that obviously you would click on one of those links to take you to the full node content. So I'm going to give an example of, let's say we have an agency that is coming up and maybe putting on a conference. This is a manually curated list, by the way. And let's say they replaced most of these stacks with just purely events. So here we have a mix of blog articles, events, news media, requests, and standard page. But let's say they changed them to all events coming up to a conference. So what you can do by a simple click of the menu is this. So what you see here is the exact same content. We've just simply switched the view mode. And the editor can do this. There's a simple selection of menu and then a press of the save of the page. All the hard work has been done in 2 places. The UI kit that's already out there, so all these view modes are in there already, and of course the styling is there, but as a developer, you can customize all this CMS and change it to whatever you like. So it's a pretty powerful tool for an editor for making wholesale changes, say to a home page or landing page. So just to give you a bit of context, we're looking at this stack down the bottom here. This is the original view. And what I'm going to do now is take you through the editor experience. So this is in the back end and just show you how easy it is. So first off, this is just a small detail of the full edit page. So we've just for the clarity on the screen, I've just come into this single paragraph. And here are the lists of nodes. So to build this stack list, you simply insert your cursor in one of those fields and start typing. And using the auto lookup, you can find content on your website and it will pull it into this node list. At the moment, we've got 5, but we could have 6, we could have 4, or whatever. So the important element on this page is this one down here called stat detail. So this is hooked into the entity reference display, hooked into all the view modes in the site, and obviously the CSS, which is associated with it. So zooming into the menu, here we have it on stat detail at the moment, and we're simply going to click it to calendar item. And that's it. And the result is going from this to this. Super simple. So it gives the power to the editor to make really quick and simple, but quite effective changes to the home page or landing page. The good news is that obviously it works across all the different breakpoints. So it works for desktop wide, desktop, tablet, and of course mobile. So all that CSS, so out of the box, you have all that, but you can change it with CSS if you wish. The next module I'd like to show you is the entity class formatter. And so this is essentially a style sheet for components. So now we're talking about the container in which that stack is contained. So here again, I've just zoomed in on the menu, the crux of the issue here for the editor. So the editor comes here, it's on default at the moment. I've just put the menu, just an inset down the bottom so you can see what's going on. So all the editor does is change it to Alt. And then suddenly we've got a change to the container and the CSS there. Super simple. So that gives the power to the editor to make changes on the home page really quite quickly. Now the idea between default and Alt is a bit like alternating rows in a table. Okay, so you've all seen alternating rows. So you go light grey, white, light grey, white. So it just gives a bit of comprehension in terms of the segment. So if you have a stack of components using alternating styles, will make it easier for the viewer to understand what's going on. And the editor can control that. So it's very much like just the style sheets for components. You're all aware of style sheets in Word, for example, or other programs like InDesign, where you build up a library of style sheets and then you can apply them quickly and easily. Now the style sheets are really essentially developed by the site builder and developer, and then they're available to the editor to be used. So we have, out of the box, these four. We have Alt, Dark, and Dark Alt. So moving to Dark, we'll change it to this. Again, the editor's doing this, fill in the details. So here you put the background color. You pull in the content from preloaded content, so you've already uploaded that water video image. That water video. Then you use an auto lookup to pull that into the form. Down the bottom, of course, you've got the image. If your browser is can't run video, or for whatever reason, then it will default to the image. So that's pretty cool there. And the result, of course, is the video background. You can apply multiple modifiers. So you can put in a padding modifier to increase the size of that component. So I think you can apply as many as you like there to change the look and feel of the component. So this one is really good because, again, if you have a special campaign, or you want to do something out of the box, then you've got the power to do that. You don't have to go back to the site builder or the front ender. Of course, with great power comes great responsibility, and of course, the agency has to make sure they stick to the brand guidelines. But it's really, probably the use cases here is for special campaigns or special announcements, and again, you can do that out of the box as an editor. So now I'm just going to show you some of the videos in here, some of the components. So you've got scroll reveal, got font modifiers if you need a special font for a campaign, custom gradients, adaptive height modifier, the clip modifier, so you can actually clip images there using CSS, and then of course the video background. Okay, so there's a lot of power out there, out of the box there, and all these are on the Jumpstarter website. You can go and check out some of these. All right, I'm now going to switch to responsive images. So this now is, responsive images is out of the box, but if you install the Foundation and GovCMS8 UI Kit Starter, you won't get this configuration. So Morphters put in some additional configuration over the top of the foundations. So I think we're all aware of what a responsive layout is, so it's adaptive. And what you're seeing here is actually a screenshot of 4 different breakpoints, starting with desktop and then moving to tablet, tablet portrait, and then finally mobile. So as you can see, the layout is adapting as we go across. Now, in the early days of responsive layouts, you wouldn't necessarily get different file sizes. So the dimensions would change, but your file size doesn't as you move through the different breakpoints. So for example, If you have a 3 megabyte image, which is your original one, let's just say in that first desktop view on the left, when you get to the end, you still have a 3 megabyte image trying to be delivered to your mobile phone. And that's not necessarily a good experience. So what we've done in terms of our configuration with the responsive images module, we've gone ahead and actually defined a number of different file sizes or dimensions as you move across different breakpoints. So what that means is that you put in the image once, and then the system essentially generates different sizes for different breakpoints. So by the time you get down to the last one there, you've got a much smaller file size, let's say 240K. And the benefit of that, of course, is that you have faster page speeds for your mobile devices and such. And where it's good is the editor doesn't have to upload all those different file sizes. The system does it. So even smarter than that is actually lazy generating. So the images aren't all generated when you upload the image. They're only generated if they're called for. So if no one views this particular website on the mobile, no small mobile image will be generated. Okay, so that reduces load on the server. So that's pretty cool. So I'll take you through the editing size. I'm just focused on the configuration side, part of it. So imagine if you're in the WYSIWYG area, you've inserted your cursor and you've pressed embed and you're starting to upload your image there. So I'm just looking at the configuration part of this. So you can see there you have the display as menu. And this has quite a number of options in there, from full, half, large, medium, down to tiny. So this is where we've gone through and built all these different configurations under the system, under the hood, and then used the responsive image module to deliver the final result. So all the editor has to do is upload the image, nominate half. So half in this means half of the content area. So imagine we've got a content area of 800 pixels. This will generate, for this particular view, a 400 pixel wide image. Of course, you can float left or right. You can use captions or non-captions. And the result is this. And obviously, as you get down to the mobile view, then it's obviously starting to stack. So the half, by the time you get down to the mobile view, obviously is going full width for that particular device. So obviously, if you're using your old iPhone 3, you're not downloading a 3 megabyte image right at the end. So here is an example of some of the other configurations we've put in there, things like small, medium, large, and tiny. And of course, they all degrade to the stack view right at the end. All right, so now I'm going to move to customizing the admin theme. So the previous modules there are all built in except for responsive images. The other 3 modules are already in there. So what can you do to customize the site builder to customize the admin theme? I'm going to come up with a fairly trivial example just to give you an idea of what you can do. So have a look at the order there. We've got thumbnail and body. Now, for a particular client coming out of a training session, they might say, well, we don't ever use thumbnail. Is there any chance you could move it or get rid of it? Well, yes, there is. And it's basically managed form display. So site builders can use this to customize the edit form that the editors can see. So as a site owner, if you know that this can happen, then you're more likely to ask your development team to make some changes there. So this is a GUI system. This is not available to the editor. This is a GUI system for the site builder. And so the site builder would do this prior to launch. So have a look at those 2 items there, the thumbnail and body. The site builder switches those around to body and thumbnail. And hey, presto, it goes title, body, and thumbnail. So that thumbnail that the client never uses is now sort of hidden away down the bottom. So that's a fairly trivial example. There's a lot more you can do, obviously, under the hood. You can change widgets for fields. You can change orders. So there's a lot you can do in this to make it a super smooth experience for your editors. So you get a standard configuration out of the box, but don't be afraid to change that and make it a better experience. All right, so hook form alter. This example is not actually from a GovCMS example. This is from another project that Morph has done, but the concepts are the same and you can do it in GovCMS. So the site builder can go along and use a hook form alter to essentially, before the edit form is rendered to the editor, they can do some customization. And this is an example of one of those. And here we've basically added inline help. So in any project, the concept of onboarding a client is extremely important. There are 4 or 5 methods that you can use, including obviously you can put out videos, standard documentation, inline help. You can do things like overlay and a number of other techniques. So this one is just inline help. It means that the editor doesn't have to go away and search through endless documentation or videos to find the help they need. So in this instance, we put in the description of all the side component blocks or side components. So there are several view modes, several different ones they can choose from. So we've added an inline help description to allow the editor to understand what's happening. Of course, you can add in collapse, so you can collapse that and keep it uncluttered. Now, there is actually a module called Better Field Descriptions. The Drupal 8 version was only released in September. It's not part of GovCMS core at the moment, but it may well be. It may be a module that ends up being in the starter kit. But this can be done without that particular module. Other things you can do to customize the admin theme is change the labels of the fields themselves. Again, this is not a GovCMS example, but I had a client request that said their marketing team didn't really understand the label summary. And as most of you experienced Drupal site builders will know, that top one is normally called summary. In this example, we used hook form alter to change that label to a label that the client understood better. All right, so it's changed to meta description. And what it means is you're not, as a site builder, you're not interfering with the standard machine names of your fields. You're just doing an overlay using hook form alter. So it doesn't upset the system, but it gives better comprehension to the client. Now, for example, body. Let's just imagine that you're developing a website for a funeral home. Now, the term body has a very different meaning to that organisation than it does, And we all understand that body means main content. But you could use this hook form alter to change body to main content if you wished, okay? So don't assume that your client understands these labels here, and you can do something about that and give them a smooth experience. Alrighty, so now I'd like to move to custom admin views. Again, you can do some fairly major impacts for your client for very little effort, and this is one of them. So we had a client who, again, didn't understand what provider means. So out of the box, with the theme that we were using at the time, the label essentially for the media type or the document type was called provider. Now I have to admit, as someone who's been with Drupal for about 15 years, I've always accepted that these labels are what they are and I understand what it is, but they had no idea. So after a discussion, they decided they want media type. So we went away and changed it. It was about an hour worth of work. But it meant a lot to them because they came from a different CMS system and it was called media type then, so we changed it for them. The other thing that we did is they came from a CMS that allowed them to categorize their images through folders. Okay, so they had a folder for banners, they had a folder for documents, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, we were using managed media through the media entity, and we didn't have that paradigm. So they couldn't get down to the folder level and then organize their images. So what we did is we added taxonomy to the media entity. And then suddenly they had a way of categorizing all their media. It ended up being a better solution than what they had, because suddenly they could do multiple taxonomy. They could use multiple taxonomy terms and tag media with multiple categories. And so here, for an example, you can see at the top there, government and regulation and infrastructure projects. Better still, they control the taxonomy. So if down the track they needed to add a different kind of categorization, it was easy for them to do so, and that would automatically flow into the system, and it means that in this list they could use the top media category up the top there to filter by particular categories. They can search in specific media categories, and so it ends up being a better solution. And we turned that around pretty quick in about a day or so. And it was one of the key points in the project where the client really understood that we were really fighting for them to really serve them well. And they were really, really happy with this. And again, small amount of effort just by talking to the client and understanding their requirements. So I'm just going to go through a couple of small modules. So other modules that are included here, things like Chosen. So this widget can be used on, I think, most fields. So imagine if you have like 10 to 20 taxonomy terms. The default, I think, for taxonomy terms is auto lookup. Now that doesn't really, auto lookup is just one plain field that doesn't give you any indication of what kind of taxonomy terms are in there. So you may end up using a select list instead of auto lookup. But then if you have 10 to 20, then you've got this massively long select list, and that's not necessarily a good outcome. So Chosen is this really kind of cool module that kind of combines the best of both. So there on the left, you can see that clicking into the field, you get an indication of what the taxonomy terms are. So as an editor, you get instant comprehension of what you've got there to choose from. You can actually scroll that. And also you can put in a little search there and then narrow that down to just a couple of terms. Simple. So you do that with, I think, Manage Form Display and then change that widget in, and suddenly you've got a better experience for the editor. Focal point. Who's used Focal Point in here? Yeah, quite a few hands. Yeah. This is a great module. Quite often clients don't have optimized images when they're uploading them into the system. I'll give you the example of, let's say, a photographer has done photographs of board members on one day and a different photographer has done a set on the other day, and the head position in each photograph is different. Now, of course, the client can go away using Photoshop or other graphic devices and simply change that and make it more consistent. Or they just accept they've got inconsistency in the uploaded images and then use this module to make them more consistent. So you can see there a little cross there on the parrot. And so by determining the focus of this image, that when you save this, the resulting image or view mode will show that image with the parrot on the left, basically almost in the center of the page. So it optimizes the image depending on where you want to focus. Last module I'd like to show you is the Link It module. So again, when you're in the WYSIWYG editor, this little module allows you to search for internal content using auto lookup. So what you do is you select your word in the WYSIWYG editor, and then you do an auto lookup. So I've typed in here battery, for example, and all the content in my website with the term battery comes up. And then you simply choose it. So it means that you don't have to go around searching for nodes, trying to find node 1 or the particular URL. You use this and the system does all the work for you. All right, so that's the main presentation. I'd like to leave you with some resources here. GovCMS. So if you're planning or thinking about using GovCMS, go and check out their website. Go and have a chat perhaps to Nathan or the team on the desk out there. It is a fantastic platform. Not only the starter kit, obviously, that comes out of the box, but the whole procurement process, the hosting, completely open source. That's going to check that out and talk to the GovCMS team. The other one, the second one there is a video from the Nashville DrupalCon. I reference this quite a bit. And it goes into a lot more detail about our editor experience than I can here. So if you're really interested in expanding on your knowledge there, go and check out this video. It's really, really good. We have the GovCMS Jumpstarter there. If you want to check out some of the modules and components there, go and check this out. This is online, and there are plenty of pages there with tests and demos showing you what can be done with GovCMS. And finally, Morphed, our company. If you want to chat to us, go to our website, get in touch, or come and see us out on our stand out just outside the door. All right, so a friend of my wife recently said that typically people only take one thing around, or only remember one thing from a presentation. So I'd like to suggest a takeaway from this one. It is that editor experience matters. It really, really does. And if you get this right, you're going to have some pretty happy clients and pretty happy stakeholders. So there's a lot of flexibility in GovCMS. There's a lot of really good stuff out of the box. So go forth and site build. Thank you. All right, just a couple of thank yous or a couple of shout outs. First of all to Nathan, Sharon and Toby and the team who've done just an amazing job over the last 12 months building GovCMS8 from the ground up. I think now there are around about 70 plus GovCMS7s migrated to the new platform. GovCMS8 is in alpha. Agencies, including ours, are now developing in it. It's going to be released very soon. Probably in December. I'd like to thank Nikki, my track chair. She's given me some great feedback for this presentation, so thank you, Ricky, for your involvement there. I'd like to thank Murray, the Managing Director of Morphed, who suggested to come up and do this talk and assisted with the framework of that talk. I'd also like to thank the Morphed team. 3 of those modules that are included in GovCMS, the entity reference display, the entity class formatter, and the modifiers have been developed over the last couple of years by the amazing developers at Morphed. And we're absolutely delighted that we can share these modules with you within the framework of GovCMS. And I'm really proud to be part of the company that's really putting back into the community to benefit all of us. All right. So now Q, A, and C. So I've called it Q, A, and C because it doesn't just have to be question and answer. If you have something you'd like to contribute here today, you can see a better way of doing things or a different way of doing things, don't be afraid to ask. Now I do have a secret weapon here with Murray, so don't be afraid to ask some really hard technical questions because he'll come up and answer them. All right, so do we have any questions? Well, in terms of the customisation of the WYSIWYG menu itself, obviously we turn things on and off. I'm probably not the best place to talk about some of those compliance items. So can you give a specific?
Yeah, sure. There's one thing about the non-breaking spaces that it likes to put in things in empty tags. Would love to have an explanation as to why it said that it does that. I know why, but it'd be interesting to have that conversation.
Yeah, look, I don't have an answer for that. There are obviously some initiatives with the Gutenberg plugin that I believe is coming to Drupal soon. Yeah, look, CK Editor is not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's served, I think, Drupal quite well. I don't, unfortunately, have a specific answer for that particular one. Murray, have you?
I don't know.
No.
I'd say it's because it's an insertion point in the GUI part of it, but that's another matter.
Yeah. But obviously, as modules involved, look, if the Gutenberg plugin ends up being a really, really good one, it's something that could be folded into GovCMS down the track. And this is GovCMS8 is obviously in continuous improvement, so it's not just going to stop here. So as we get better methods and better modules, they'll be considered for folding into the system.
But I suppose also it would be useful to know, particularly from the GovCMS
Could you-
is there an accessibility issue with the CK level?
There could very well be, and that's something we need to figure out a way to iteratively fix. There is an accessibility
We'll have a conversation about this later, and definitely really interested to hear your points, and if there's something can be done to mitigate that. Absolutely.
Thanks for your presentation. My question is with regards to the chosen lookup of entity reference fields. How do you find that scales for very large taxonomy sets or very large sets of entities?
I can't answer that directly, but it is, I think the sweet spot is 10 to 20 to 30. So if you go to that, then if you have more content, you're likely to go to auto lookup if you've got mass of that. But what you could do, sorry? All right. What you could do, particularly in that case, is maybe consider putting some inline help, giving some examples of what they're likely to find. Sorry?
Starts with, contains with, the difference between looking up an entity that either starts with a string or contains a string.
Well, I think the idea behind Chosen is to present the editor with a number of options where they might not understand what that taxonomy terms is about. So if you have a mass of those and you can't use Chosen because it doesn't scale well, so I'm recommending using auto lookup and then put some inline help with some examples of those taxonomy terms. That might be a way of getting out of that.
Just something very quickly. I noticed in the, I think it was the modifiers, you had the video and clip. Are they just doing this because they weren't in the distro about 2 weeks?
I didn't see Clip until recently. Murray?
Well, no, they're just sort of extensions that we've done. So Ian's just sort of demonstrating some extra modifiers and things that are possible. So
Will they do this soon? Are they going to be introduced into next release?
theoretically, there's a module called Modifiers Pack. You can go to that, copy that module, drop it into your thing. So that's just a plugin, right? So theoretically,
Doesn't make sense.
possible. Nice stats. No, they can. Well, it's in the theme. What's the thing about the libraries? Yeah, you can drop all the libraries into the theme as well. So theoretically, that is possible. So because that's a plugin, you can copy and paste that from the Modifiers Pack module. So it's not actually in the distro, but that kind of thing is easy to play around.
Question up the back?
In your first month's images, there's several modules used for those references. Does it work out as well?
I might get Murray to answer. So essentially the module is in there, but you need to do a lot of configuration to deliver what you saw there. So the module is included in the foundations, but it doesn't work out of the box. You need to do further configuration. Murray might have a few more words to say on that one.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because when we were doing the start of the thing, we didn't actually implement any responsive images. That's one thing that didn't make it in. And I guess each site's going to have its own requirements. But what you're seeing there is we've tried to work out a nice way to embed, sort of media, so that rather than just, having, a single embedded sort of media there, we've come up with a whole stack of different view modes, sort of take go into media and image and then
Look, there was some discussion about whether it would be good for core, but the GovCMS team are really trying to keep the foundation, the starter kit, nice and lean, and then some of these more esoteric and custom stuff is really up to the agency to put in. But if there's enough demand and the GovCMS team decide it's worth putting in, it's something we could definitely add.
I've got one actually. What percentage of the project budget would you allocate for this editor experience improvement?
Good question. That's a hard one to answer because quite often it's part of discovery, it's part of training session and feedback, and it's not often recorded. The short answer is just more. I think more budget needs to be spent on this because it's a really, really important area for the clients, because after you've done the great building of your website, they're the ones who have to maintain it over the years. So, the more you can do to make that easy for them, the better. So, yeah, I'd like to see 20 or 30%, but it just depends on the budget requirements. So, yeah, good question.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.